All right, and on today's episode of Startup Success Students, we're talking to Father Chris. No, we're joking. I'm absolutely joking. No Father Christmas. No, today we've got someone even better than Father Christmas and even better than Elon Musk's Starlink that goes through the sky, which looks just like Father Christmas and the reindeers. Watch out for it. It'll freak you out. Trust me. We have Miguel Reynolds joining us today. An incredible story that we're going to get into, all the way from ICT professor to startup mentor to founder to now working as an expert in the European Commission. What a journey that is, eh? So listen, we are going to get into the episode today. We're going to learn from the personal and business stories of Miguel Reynolds. We know and we can tell just from his LinkedIn profile that he studied a lot of executive management. He's gone to the best places and sought some of the most expensive education at Stanford University. And the list goes on. You check it out. It goes on and on and on. He's done so many courses. So very keen to learn how he's gone through this journey, how he's gone from ICT professor into starting his own Corkbrick company. What do you know about Corkbricks? Could be a sustainable alternative to building houses or internal furniture, maybe. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what we can learn from Miguel. So thanks for joining us, Miguel, all the way from Portugal. We just did the intro just a minute ago, and I was explaining how you've gone from ICT professor to founder to startup mentor. And you know, now you've got the Corkbrick. We can see the Corkbrick just in shot there. We'll get into that as well. We also see you as an expert, there we go, in the European Commission. And that's impressive, right? That's an impressive journey. I can tell as well, you've taken certain courses, you've invested in yourself, you've gone to some of the best places to get that education too. So I can tell that's a part of the story, but maybe you can kick us off. Like, how does it feel to you looking back at someone who's come all the way from being ICT teacher to doing what you are now? When you reflect, how does that make you feel?
Well, I confess to you first that when I was an ICT teacher, it was because it was in the school, in a very traditional school of my mother, that they had a fantastic kitchen at the time. So my classes were at the time still optional. So the deal was that I could go there, give my classes, and have a beautiful lunch.
Good deal.
And it was fun because some of the cookers were still from my mother's time, so they treat me like a prince. So it was really, and obviously I like to teach the kids, but I was never, what I was always, and I am, is an entrepreneur. I started my first company in IT, doing software development, when I was 19, and from that point onwards, it's just following my curiosity. So that's.
And where did we start then? At 19, what was the first thing that you bought and sold?
Well, you don't know what it is, but there was a machine that changed the world at the time called Spectrum.
Okay.
And you had to write all your code and then record it in a cassette. Okay. And then sell each cassette at a time. So it was really boring. But especially comparing to the effort that you do today, which is zero at the time.
What was on the cassette?
It was the code that then the other guy that buy the software and needs to put in the tape recorder, to play it, and hopefully it will go well, because sometimes the recording was not well done and you have to repeat the whole process. So it was, we were very patient.
And is this a music recording? Is it a recording of a conversation? Like, what's on the recording?
It was like it sounds, because in reality, instead of it's like in your computer, in your hard disk, you have your bits and bytes recorded in your hard disk. In this case, it was not in a hard disk; it was in a cassette tape.
Gotcha.
So, and the computers could listen to that, but it was a very boring and slow process. But it was much better than before, that it was with punch paper. You don't know what I'm talking about, and probably nobody.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy. But if you see it at the world today, it's like a marathonist that was used to run with 10 kilos in each leg, and now we don't have any weight. So it's completely different, the world now. Like we are talking today, it's very easy.
So what happened next after Spectrum then? At 19, you saw this
Yeah,
new invention. Then what happened?
Then there was a crazy guy that happened to visit my brother, and he was talking with my brother. He wanted to make a computers company. And my brother said, well, you know, I have a brother at home that he's always talking about computers and doing things. So this guy called me. We made an appointment in a cafe. And 1 week afterwards, we were starting a computer. At the time, selling Olivetti's. I don't know even if you remember the brand. It was very strong in the 80s and 90s. And yeah, that was the beginning. And from there to today, you know, I created, I don't know, maybe more than 20 companies. Most
60?
of it,
wow.
no, 20.
Oh, 20.
And some others I just help as a small investor or as a mentor, or you know, just business concepts that I like. So the criteria is essentially sustainable concepts, things that really solve real problems. I'm not looking for, you know, just making money. I think it's a waste of human energy. We can do much more than just the money. We can do the money, obviously, but simultaneously creating a solution.
I'm with you 100%. I think you have to get to a certain, you know, part of individual personal wealth and financial security, I think, to then give yourself the ability to really go after that vision and mission. You know, most people in the world are just trying to make ends meet, you know.
I don't agree with you, because in my case, I started with absolute zero. And obviously you have options all your life. And but what I can tell is that in many occasions, I had the option, you know, just to do some bucks or to create real things. And I always opted, and sometimes I even financially speaking, I was losing. But at least I had my, you know, I like to have pride in the things that I do, even if they are not successful. Not everything needs to be successful. What is important is the end of the story. And but I think this is really important, because when people are starting a company, you know, entrepreneurs, if you look, you know, in an abstract point of view, are the strikers of the society. So they are the people with initiative to go. They cannot do anything alone. They need others, but they are the ones with initiative. And in reality, entrepreneurs have the potential to solve real problems. And if you solve real problems, you create economy.
Well, that's how you can validate the need and value, isn't it? That it's going to have a social impact beyond just making money. You know, what's the value to someone? How does it change their life? You know, to a certain extent, you could argue.
If you waste your time in buying and selling an empty token or something like that, obviously, okay, you can make some money, but you only can make some money because a lot of people are losing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It's pure speculation.
When
you create economic value, especially when you include the whole word, and the whole word economy started by 3 letters, echo. And most people forget those 3 essential letters in the word economics. And in reality, when we talk about echo, we talk about us and our beautiful planet. So anything that don't take care of the eco part of the economy, it's just
ecology. That's what you think, isn't it?
So it's just a shoot in the foot. So someone will pay for the bill. And in my point of view, if you are lucky, like you are or I am, because you were born in the right place, right family, you are healthy, all these things you didn't choose. Just luck.
Product of your environment.
Beyond all that, no, it's just a fact. It's luck. Many factors, right? Beyond all that, you are intelligent. So the least you can do is to use all those 4 factors of luck to try to create something, not only for yourself, but especially for all the majority that are not as lucky as you are.
Absolutely. And so was there a tipping point in your life where you learned that lesson, or that realization came to you? Or when was it in your kind of career journey there, from 19 years old starting your first venture to then kind of where you are now with the 20 different ventures and the Corkbrick that we're doing and the support you're giving to the European Commission? You know, T?
No, can I stop 1 minute?
Yeah, there we go. And that's how you know it's live and direct. We have to just stop for 2 seconds and then we'll be back. We have a visitor at the door of the guest. Uno memento, as they say in Spain. All right, and we're back. That was good. That little visitor at the door there, no worries, we'll pick it up. Yeah, so where were we? We were talking about from when did you first learn this lesson? Or when did the realization first come to you that you should just focus on ecology, you know, and helping the world be a better place and fitting into the fabric and nature of society in order for your ideas to really stick? When did that realization first come to you?
Good question that I don't have an answer. The only thing that
okay. Maybe it was another thing that was just part of you. Maybe it was always there, you know?
You know, it is. And, you know, again, it's something that you don't choose, because when I was a child, I was lucky enough to live, for instance, in the middle of the forest. In another moment of my life, I was living in an island where in September waves, we have sardines in the garden. So, and these kind of things that, especially when you have this kind of experience when you were a kid,
yeah,
probably it produces you a different human being, because you interact with many different types of people, nature, and unconsciously you learn how to value what is really important in life. If you were born in a city, it's much more difficult to have this kind of perceptions.
It's true. It's true. They say your memory is really just emotion that traps events when they occur. So the only reason why you remember anything is because there was emotion at the time that it happened. So that's why a really high emotion, a really significant event, you're really going to remember that moment for a long period of time, you know? So if you're early and your neural pathways are still kind of, if you're young and your neural pathways are not yet fully developed, then having those early emotional experiences is going to trap a lot of, as you say, powerful moments that really tie you emotionally to nature and to the sense of ecology, which then gives all of your ideas a root, you know, a foundational kind of place to think from, I guess, you know. It's coming from those emotions that you've had throughout your life, isn't it? So very fascinating. I like that. Good point.
Yeah, I remember when, you know, my father was a Navy officer, so we were moving when I was a child. And one of the places that I moved already in my teenagers was to São Paulo, Brazil. And it was a huge impact because I was coming from an island. And then you
Wow. I've been to Sao Paulo once for a business trip, and oh my God, it was
it's
the most crazy city you'll ever see in your life, though. The scale of it. You know how I couldn't, my head was, I'm from London, it's quite a big city. I've been to loads of major cities in the world, but the scale of just the motorways and how they all interlink and just how many buildings there are of different kind of, some are so wealthy, some are completely desolate, so shoulder to shoulder, just the scale of what the inherent issues and problems might be, as well as, you know, like just how mental and chaotic and complex it is. It was very overwhelming for me. That must have been crazy for you. Coming from an island.
I can tell that in the first 6 months that I was living there, I had headaches every day because of the pollution.
Yeah.
And nowadays, people, fortunately, today and most of my life, but today again, I live just across the sea, and so if I go to, even if I go to Lisbon, which is not as polluted as London, at the end of the day, I feel the pollution, and. And it's not me that I'm picky. No, it's we are losing our capability to understand what is really important in life. And there are two
like
aspects.
Fresh air. We forget what fresh air is. It's exactly crazy. I also live by the beach. I've got a beach just through my windows there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy the fresh air. Yeah. After so many years trapped in a city, this is paradise for me.
It's crazy, and people forget another important detail: time. You know, especially when we are young, we think that time will be there forever, but it's not. You know, I already see less in my front than in my back, even if I'm lucky. And that is an impressive sensation, because it's the first time that you start thinking how to use your time. And if you see how people waste their life using an instrument that could be an instrument of freedom like your smartphone as an instrument of enslavement, just scrolling something that it's completely meaningful for you or for anybody.
It's like you're being used by the phone instead of you using the phone. The phone's using you.
Exactly. And that's exactly the reality. And then people start thinking about crazy things like the robots in the vaccines. But in reality, you don't need, because everybody already has a smartphone. So they were demanding too much from the people in power, because they were not clever enough to think in such a complex situation. But what is important, and I think going back to the entrepreneurship, is that if we are that lucky, we need to get together and try to solve real problems. And it's very easy when you start thinking about any thing that can become a company solution. Just do the basic questions. Is this a contribution to the health somehow of people? If yes, fantastic. If neutral, okay. If no, stop immediately. Because if whatever you are doing can compromise the health of people, if you do the same for health, for environment, and for security, and for human development, then if you have enough yes here and no no's, then it's worth to move on.
So they're your indicators. They're your indicators of success as well, right? I guess that's your process of whittling out all of the amount of ideas that we all have as entrepreneurs, right? We have more ideas than we know what to do with. So that's your way of defining kind of what ones are going to best fit. Do you go back to that, every quarter or every funding release or every kind of, chunk through the roadmap, or do you go back to those 4 key indicators, and if not, what else do you use as your kind of measurements?
I like to be very simple. And the beautiful of mathematics is just it has only one operation. All the other were invented by men. So if you go back enough to basics, you can solve most of the problems. And the same happens when you are looking for new endeavors. And I tend to think always, is this useful for this, that, or that? So it's just 4 basic questions. If in those questions you don't have a negative, okay, we can proceed. If we have a negative, we should immediately stop.
And are they the same 4 questions that you mentioned a minute ago, or are they different?
Yeah, it's always, because in reality, if you think about those, I mentioned health impact, ecology impact, security impact, and
human development
impact. And this is the Maslow series, nothing new, right?
Yeah, hierarchy of needs, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just that. Obviously, if you don't have health, you have nothing. If you don't have security, even
so
if you
essentially
have health,
what you're saying is, does your idea help someone reach a point of self-actualization? And like, you should be able to package something that allows someone to meet many of their needs so that they can be at the top of Maslow's pyramid, which is self-actualization. Is that kind of what you're positioning there? It's
a good approach. And in reality, again, a lot of people like to create sophistication in things that are not sophisticated, because when you are solving, obviously, if you want to put a rocket in the moon, you need to know a lot about science. But there are many other problems to be solved all over the world that you don't need that level of knowledge in science. But at least you have the perception of the impact of what you are trying to do. And if you know that it's like, the problem is that in our society, we don't distinguish, for instance, an aeronautic engineer that does fighters from the one that does commercial planes.
We forget people have an ability to see differently. It doesn't matter what their function is or what they get paid to do. Their ability to think differently is really kind of what gives us all value and our uniqueness, isn't it?
The big difference is that one is paid to kill other people.
There's a big difference in that example.
It's a big difference. because if you are building fighters, planes, obviously, okay, it can be to defense, but in most cases it's for attack. And you hope that it's not someone that you know. So it's always nice to be in the army, and if it is on someone that you don't know, because if it is someone that you know, then it's a different story.
Yeah.
And that is the problem. So, but going back to entrepreneurship, I think that this is one aspect. You make the question, the basic questions about what you are trying to do. And the second thing is that, like in a football team, it's not enough to have the strikers. You can have Ronaldo, for instance, but if you don't have someone to supply the ball in the right condition, and if you don't have nobody in the goalkeeping, then it will be very difficult to win a game. And one of the big problems is that probably most of the community of people that listen to your podcast are more entrepreneur like. But in reality, we need to connect the dots, because that's how you can really solve problems, is to have different perspectives. Because if you just have strikers, then you don't have goals to score, you see?
It's funny. It's one of those things I advise and help clients do, but I can't say I've done for myself. Do you know? It's something that I do when I work with clients. It's something I've done in the businesses that I've started, but for my own website and my own stuff, my own stuff, I haven't actually applied it to myself yet. It's crazy. You just reminded me there that it's build the right team. For me, this is almost like a hobby. It's fun. I enjoy learning it, and I love the conversations and the people that I meet. That's why I do it, really, just to have the conversations that I like to have. But building a team around your needs is what I've written down here. That's so much more powerful, more beneficial than what a lot of entrepreneurs do, at least initially, to get something off the ground, is build a job for themselves. You're not trying to build yourself a job. You're trying to build a team that's going to solve a problem.
Yeah, it's a different story. One thing is to create your own activity, which is great. The other is to create an organization that can live by itself, which is a completely different challenge. And obviously, we are all different. There are people that are very good to start, and which requires a different skill set. For instance, I consider myself that type of people. And then you have others that are much more adequate to develop. So after things are becoming crystallized, then they come in and develop and move to the next stage. And there is still another type of people, the ones that when things are going stable or down, and then they are good to recover. And so it's different. Normally, very unusually, can be the same person. And the problem is that we try to fit always in the same person, and that is a big challenge. Ideally, you should have someone to bootstrap and then someone to move to. That's why Silicon Valley is so successful, because they had that kind of structure. So when you come into an idea, then you have someone that move you to the next stage. And then when you reach the next stage, and normally, even with the case of Google, for instance, very early in the life of the company, both the founders, they were still, but not at executive level. So because they were very good in what they're doing, but they didn't like, they didn't want to create a structure, which is a completely different skill set. So and that is a big challenge that I think, even for myself, is to be able to do that step. In some countries, that is organized. England, not as much as in UK, but better than other countries in Europe. In most countries, especially, obviously the situation now is much better than 20 years ago, but we are still far away from the American way of creating. And the American way of creating is their success is exactly that you move one step to the other, and you all have someone to move to the next one.
Yeah, is that just because people dominantly kind of find a bit of a niche for themselves? Is it they figure out, maybe like you have, that I'm the guy that gets it off the ground, and it's better if someone else can take it from here, and I'll just go find new ideas and get them off the ground, and for other people, then, do you think it's purely just about, because of the patterns in how people see differently and think differently, they're going to be, better at a particular part of that kind of entrepreneurial or business building journey? Or do you think it's one of those things where, you know, someone like yourself who's good at starting things off the ground, it's just a core ability to solve problems with teams of people, isn't it? And potentially with, you know, slightly different constraints around your decision-making process. But as you get to larger scales, you should be able to apply that same thinking, right? From startups into scale-ups into, you know, massive transformations that are trying to, you know, level up organizations of 18, 20,000 people, you know. You should be able to apply the same thinking throughout with the adjustments based on the constraints.
It depends on how you build the structure. I think it's always a human problem, because in reality, if you are able to build, this is my opinion, it's not a scientific opinion, it's just my opinion. If you are able to build an organization in small groups, in small teams,
definitely,
and each team connecting to each other but remaining independent, then you can have, you know, the startup atmosphere moving up. But obviously, as an organization grows, teams become bigger, management became too much, and unfortunately, in most cases, there are more management than leadership, and then you lose more time in management than in doing, and then politics became more important than the results. And so that's why it's not by any coincidence that if you want to innovate, with very few exceptions in history, it's always the small organizations that can innovate. And that's why, for instance, the Palo Alto Research Center, I don't know if they still do it, but for many years they were a reference, because in reality, they organize people in small teams with lots of freedom and let them fly. But obviously, again, this depends on the people, because for you to have people that will be autonomous, they need to be highly responsible. And unfortunately, not that all the people know the difference, the honors of freedom. The honors of freedom is responsibility. And a lot of people confuse freedom with anarchy. And,
they do. But, you know, I think from what I've seen of, you know, big transformations and even of smaller organizations that then get bigger and, you know, grow their teams, from what I've seen is you're right, you have to keep the numbers small. And when the team size starts to increase, you need to get the team smaller somehow, right? There must be a part of the process that isn't working so well, or that you need to think differently around, so that you can have these smaller teams. Because after you hit kind of 9 people in a team, there's too many lines of interaction for there to be an effective decision-making or information sharing process. So from that point is a point of no returns, right? You might as well, it's diminishing returns after that point in time, which is a bad decision. Yeah. What I've seen is them be able to take the same tenets that they do in, you know, even small startups in Silicon Valley, and then they keep that same scale. Now, in order to do so, they have to leverage, you know, data on the way their teams work, and they have to create effective dashboards that save a lot of the decision-making process. Ultimately, if you can get a team of people to have data on the way that they work and break down their work in an effective way so that you know where the value is and how that wraps up into the customer journey that you're trying to create, and therefore the vision and the big impact you're trying to make happen as a result of working through that customer journey. If you can glue all that together with a very simple data dashboard, because their work is tracked in an online tool, for example, then the management overhead is minimal, because you can have the teams empowered through their own data. And so you don't need the middle layer. The middle layer is really just about good data and having good insight and people being able to understand cumulative flow charts and shoe heart control systems and control limits, and whether you're going to be kind of, you know, instead of saying definitively, I'm going to finish on this date, you can say best case scenario, worst case scenario, because our team always has variation, you know, and the data can tell you all these wonderful things, often automatically. So yeah, it's actually something I've been doing for about 6 years now, is trying to take this startup thinking and apply it to these massive companies. And then I'm working backwards. So I had a few startups before I got into working for corporates. Then I was on a fast-tracked executive leadership scheme. I ended up being responsible for a team of 150 towards the end of my time there in 3.5 years. And it was all agile transformation, applying the startup thinking at these different levels. And yeah, since then I've gone to other companies contracting, and I've had my own consultancy. We've been doing our own projects, and I found myself start to go I'm going down the ladder, and that's according to your advice a minute ago. I shouldn't be doing that. Maybe I should be focusing my time in one of these three areas, whereas actually what I'm doing actively is trying to support the first two steps, because I feel like I've learned that now, you know. That sounds crazy, but I know that now. It's not as exciting, you know. I'm a problem solver. I want to go and do something I'm not so familiar with. Change and transformation at a big scale, once you've done it, you know, in so many different places and different contexts, it's the same playbook, you know what I mean? It's the same stuff, same design, implement the same thing, you know. So what would you say to someone like me then, who feels like they're in a few of those camps?
Well, I think there is no rule of thumb for anything. What I think it's important is that what we do, if we do what we like, naturally, we outperform. And obviously, it's impossible to be doing 100% of your day, working day, only things that you like, but the most you can, the better, because then the result will be much better. So I think that knowing ourselves and knowing, for instance, I know that if I need to create something, I need to work at night. I know that if I need to do something really boring, I need to do it after lunch, because after lunch I'm always so slow that it's perfect for boring stuff. So, and adjusting our own clock to our own brain activity and perception, it's really important. And the same is true for the activities that we get involved in the jobs, because you know, if you are doing, you were saying that you are a problem solver, so you like to solve the problem, and when the problem solves, you move on. I understand that perfectly well. You know, for instance, you mentioned in the beginning that I was a teacher in the school for kids. I did it just once, and then I did for bigger kids only once, and then I did university only once, and then I did masters only once. So I wanted, it was a challenge to do that once, but not to repeat. And this is not good or bad. It's just a kind of personality. There are people that like to repeat the same thing every day. So what is important is that as long as you know your personality and what drives you, then try to adapt as much as you can and say yes and no accordingly to those internal characteristics.
Yeah, and that takes some understanding and reflection and learning, and probably some kind of reading, you know, some ancient knowledge to get to the point of trying to understand your characteristics or your natural tendencies. You know, that takes a lot of life learning to get to, you know, how you should optimize your day based on where your energy is likely to fluctuate, based on just how you are on an average day. I got some advice very early on, it was just along exactly the same lines, and I vouch for that idea. You know, it's so important. Everyone's got different energy in the morning, haven't they? Some people wake up and they're bouncy and they're full of ideas and they've got energy. Other people, they get that, you know, towards the end of the day or even at midday, they kick into gear. Everyone's got different kind of modes throughout the day as the sun's changing, as the composition of energy is literally changing around the world, isn't it? So it affects you differently based on, maybe
what is important.
Birth.
What is important is awareness, to be aware about why sometimes you don't feel in a good mood, and why in some other occasions, almost with no reason, you feel in a very good mood. You know,
I learned this one by I think someone gave me data to analyze once when I was working in my early point of my career, and it was like I was in a good mood. I'd been talking to people, I'd been helping them solve problems, we'd all putting ideas forward, and then I was like, okay, go and sit down and do this, and I literally felt like the walls were coming in, the ceiling was falling down. I just felt horrible. I just sat there. I've gone from being like, you know, body language all out here, massive, really enjoying myself, to literally just like, oh my God, why am I doing this? You know, and I could do it when I knuckled down, I could do it, but it wasn't it just wasn't enjoyable. You know, it was like
Yeah.
sticking daggers in my eyes. You know, it was horrible. But
That's
the
the
opposite,
difference.
you have to learn by getting yourself into these different situations, though, don't you? You know, if not,
That's the
if someone had
difference
never,
between that's the difference between talents and skills. Skills, you can do it, but you just do it because you like it, or you have to do it. Talents, you do it because you like it, and normally you are always much better with talents. So
yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
and one of the things in terms again of organization is that first of all, obviously the ideal organization is an organization with no management. If we just have leadership, it's different. Some years ago, I had
you don't need management, right?
Yeah,
people don't need to be managed.
Some years ago, I had a company in Europe, in 8 countries, and we were at the time, talking about 2000 to 2000, no, 98 to 2007, and we were about 300 people spread in different countries in Europe, all teleworkers at the time. Doing several IT-related services, and there was no management. The management was the computer. So anyone, at any given time, when they started their day, they have just 3 numbers. The first number was a direct relationship with their own performance. So it's a number that they have a direct influence. It was given by the system, and then they know, well, I need to be at 7. That's it.
Was that to do with code quality, or was that to do with?
Depending on the team, different criteria. But for each member of the team, they only have 3 key performance indicators. The first, they know that they have full influence on it. Okay. The second, it's the key performance was a key performance indicator of the team that they were in. And the third was the key performance indicator of the company as a whole. So, and that was perfect to manage the daily operations. So we didn't have to send emails or boring people. Why when should we communicate with people directly? To do leadership, to do motivation. So in that, and then it was a direct intervention from the team leader. So it was not management. And for 10 years in a row, we had the best customer satisfaction from Microsoft in all the markets that we are operating, in such a way that we became a reference written in the 25 years book of Microsoft. And this was many years ago. Obviously, the people that were participating in the company were people that were good to this model. So people that enjoy and they recognize and enjoy freedom, but they are highly responsible. They don't need someone to call them every 10 minutes to ask if they finish what they are doing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the completely ridiculous thing about it, right? Is you don't need to manage someone who knows how to solve a problem with their team. You don't need to pass them work. If you pass them work, you've prevented them from applying their own creative problem solving part of their brain to that problem. So why are they even there? If you want someone to follow your thinking, you don't need a person, you need a robot, you know. It's just always a terrible idea. So it's something as well that it's getting better, I think, the state of business and organization and just academic theory now and popular theory on leadership over management. I think it is getting better, but I think there's still a long way to go. You know, this knowledge takes normally 150 years for it to filter down really into society in the way that businesses work or the way that teams are formed. But I think it's really important, right? You go to work, most people go to work for someone who's created an organization and a way of working, right? Most hours of the day, most days of the week, most weeks of the year, right? That is pretty much just the majority of your life experiences for this company, that team, and for you as a person on your own path there. But creating an environment where people can thrive and they solve their own problems together, that should be the aim of anyone who's in a leadership position or owns a business or has been hired as an executive or director, or even is just new to the team. Really, they should be there thinking, I should be a component of this change, because there is a big movement now in the world where people are demanding more from the workplace, and if you're new in somewhere, you can do that too as well. But yeah, as I say,
I fully agree with you. The problem is that for that you need leadership, and to be a leader you need to be smart. And the problem is that most of people that consider themselves leaders, that they assume management position, unfortunately, in most parts of the world, especially in big corporation, they are not the smartest. On the contrary. And that is so they are afraid of sharing, and they are afraid that someone that is working under them can become smarter than them. So they live on this dichotomy. So that is a big issue. So an organization is just people. So depending on the people that you put there is what you can do. That's why you don't have so many problems when you talk about high tech, because normally, obviously, in high tech, you only have people with a high degree of capability. They are lucky enough. But if you go to other industries, obviously, people, they don't understand. And they need, obviously, people thinking the same way. So the only thing they understand, both the manager and the member of the team, is the whip. And the whip can be money, or it can be other things. So
yeah, but it's also unsustainable, isn't it? That, even
completely.
for the people that are going to the jobs, and it's a low state of humanity. It's going to create a low vibrational energy in them, so they're not going to be able to provide their best, working in those conditions. Keep getting whipped. It's not going to get the best out of it.
But you see many examples of big organizations like McDonald's, for instance, that they thrive on people that have no other opportunities. That's why they have employees, because they don't have other opportunities. If they had skills to do other things, probably they will prefer to work outside McDonald's than there. And,
I still think somewhere like McDonald's, right? I know actually, when I was at college, a friend of mine had a job at McDonald's. He's recently come out of prison, so there we go. That's one story for you. For another time,
because it's the good thing about McDonald's that they offer opportunities, and they are very opportunities.
Yeah, but what I learned from his time there, even when I was at college, was that it's very compartmentalized. It was like Kaizen to the absolute fullest, right? Everyone's got their little compartment. Everyone does their little job. No one really is invited to own their job or put forward the best way of working. No one's trusted. Full stop, right? Like no one's trusted, full stop. That's just like the fundamental assumption. And I think if you take people that have got and look where he's ended up, not saying McDonald's, he was never going to stay at McDonald's because of that design, because he's capable of organizing, decent scale of things that, he's got a good capability, he's got a good mindset, but that organization put him off work, full stop. And then he's off doing other things and he goes and gets himself arrested. So to begin with, if McDonald's had actually trusted him and empowered him as a team member, even people that have got no other qualifications or no other experience and nothing at all, they've still got brains. They're still humans. They still know a lot of them still know how to solve problems. They're not brain dead, They should be trusted to work together. But as you say, I think it just takes time for this theory and this knowledge to work through society. And I think it just,
if you look from other point of view, from the shareholder point of view of McDonald's, what they want to extract the most they can with the least possible. So they know that the management knows that they will always find people.
So do they want to open more McDonald's one day? Is McDonald's plan still about expansion and growth? If so, why not get people in that have had no other opportunities, that get absolutely wedded to McDonald's because you've helped them develop so much as a person, and then you give them an opportunity for them to start their own franchise, and then you've got this way of keeping people and nurturing people, and it's more in line with your 4 criteria of success that way too,
Yeah, I agree with you, but
that's hopefully they pay me. Hopefully they pay me for this idea, right?
No, they don't. Because their model is not that. Their model, they make more money. It's like Coca-Cola, that they just put some sugar and water and they spend on marketing, and they sell like hell. So they are not worried about developing people, because they know that it's very easy for them to get people. If you are in an IT company, for instance, or in a technology company, it's completely different, because you need to create conditions for people to get involved, because people are highly skillful, and not only they are intelligent. So it's more difficult to negotiate than with someone that has no other alternative. If you just left the prison, okay, fantastic, you accept anything that comes to you. If you are unemployed, you accept everything that comes to you. If you are just making some bucks because you are in university, it doesn't matter. You still live on your parents or whatever. So any money that comes in, you don't. It's not that relevant. But obviously, they live on that, and that's why they, standardize so much the whole process in a beautiful no, but in a very clever way, in such a way that is stupid proof. Anybody can do any of the stages with no problem in 1 second. That requires a lot, but that's their organization. It works very well for McDonald's. It works very well for a Walmart. It works very well for a Coca-Cola.
I know that's undoubtable, right? It's undoubtable that it's working for them. It's definitely creating shareholder value, but I definitely think it's damaging the human psyche and preventing progress.
They are destroying. They're destroying.
Human progress. But I'll tell you what, we've been talking for 45 minutes now, and I know we've got a set amount of time. So I was just curious, talk us through Corkbrick. And I guess what would be nice to hear is, maybe by your 4 indicators, we can put your kind of model, your method to the test with your own product, if you don't mind. And I mean, you would have done this thinking before, no doubt.
Well, this is very simple, because first, in terms of health, it's very healthy. Actually, when you put it at your home or your office, since it is a temperature and sound insulator, naturally you feel comfortable. But besides that, it absorbs vibrations. And maybe some years from now, we know the meaning of that. And that's why you don't understand really why, but when you have a Corkbrick wall in your place, you don't know why, but you feel comfortable. There's a special feeling, the opposite of when you use plastic. When you use plastic, you feel uncomfortable, or when you use iron. When you use Corkbrick, you feel so. Healthy speaking, fantastic.
Well, it's made of it. I guess it's made of, compared to metals, it's made of a completely different substance, and all that substance is energy. It's going to therefore carry a different energy about it. It's going to make you feel different, right? It's going to literally be a different physical substance. Yeah, it's going to reflect the sun differently, and let air go through it differently, and everything.
Everything in nature comes back to 96 plus elements. So there is nothing else. Everything that we see, right? Another aspect about Corkbrick is that is ecological, very much, because cork is a natural material that when you extract from the tree, you don't even destroy the tree. It's like cutting the hair of the tree.
Wow.
I didn't know that. It is. Unlike other materials that you extract from the forest, in the case of cork, you plant a cork tree. It takes 25 years to grow, and then every 10 years you take the bark, and it will last normally 250 years.
Wow.
So very sustainable. Besides the cork forest in itself, it's one of the most balanced ecosystems in nature. That the ecology aspect, check mark. Security, well, or even you can say it's good, because even if I throw you, you don't get hurt with it, because it's too soft. And the last, for the human development, is a plus, because obviously, because of Corkbrick, you can enjoy and play like Lego and create different things. So in reality, you are not only stimulating your creativity, but you are stimulating collaboration with other people. And when you put people collaborating, the only thing that you know is that you'll be surprised normally when you deal with creative people. When you deal with stupid people, you have wars. But when you deal with creative people, or with dolphins, like I normally like to call, the result is always new economic value. So in that regard, I'll say that Corkbrick passes all the four.
It does. It definitely does. It does a good job of passing all four there. I was just wondering there, what are the key use cases? Because I'm looking at the brick. You mentioned Lego. I've watched a video before, I think when we were first chatting away together, and I saw there was a video where I think you had two assistants putting together the cork brick in different arrangements. I think one was a wall, one was maybe a table and chairs, and like a lounge area. What are the use cases of the cork brick? So is it like for schools that maybe want to, you know, in their drama room, instead of creating, you know, very expensive staircases that come down, or the stage, they could use the cork brick to kind of, you know, act as a double whammy, isn't it? You're getting teams of young people to solve problems and actually create their own environment, and then they're going to get to use it as well, you know. What are the use cases for the cork brick? You know, is it always internal, external? What are the use cases?
Let me tell you. First, your imagination is the limit, basically. But where you excel the product properties is when you use it inside, because inside you benefit from the temperature and sun insulation characteristics. Outside you can use it too, but you are just benefiting from the dynamics of being able. So what makes Corkbrick really completely outstanding are two things. First, is sustainable, and second, is dynamic, which means that you can transform it into something else. It's like Lavoisier law, you know, everything can be transformed into something else. What are the applications? You have applications at residential market. So, and now it's becoming more trendy than ever, because people are looking more for home working, co-working, for receiving people who say Airbnb solutions, flexible housing. So all those concepts, Corkbrick hopefully will become, you know, the pioneer in history of creating that concept. In terms of commercial applications, you have big trends like co-working. You have flexible work too. You have flexible office. And obviously, what is common in all those characteristics is that you want something that can change over time.
And can move very easily. Yeah, and can move very easily, and it's pleasant on the eye, and it's not metal. Yeah.
A third application is public institutions like museums or universities or airports, places with a lot of dynamics that you need to change often. And again, the good thing about Corkbrick is that you change from A to B and you waste nothing. So when it's like Lego, when you buy Lego, especially at my age, now you have so many complex sets that normally people just use it once. But when I was a kid, we used to, I still have the Legos that I inherited from my brothers, and with just 2 or 3 boxes, we build everything. Always building in this assembly all the time, and building all. I did a lot of that.
I did a lot of that with my brother too. Yeah. We had just a big box of Lego. Yeah. Just a random box of all assorted Lego, and you just get in there and make.
Every time is always creating, and Corkbrick is the same. So in reality, if you have imagine that you are at your home and you have Corkbrick. Are you married or have kids?
No, neither.
But okay, imagine that now you find a fantastic Spanish woman, and then you have kids, and you need a space in your house. So with Corkbrick, you can just, you know, you don't have to think about moving the house. You can create a console room in your room, at least until the kid be 4 or 5 years old. And then if you need to move, then you can take your Corkbricks again, but instead of using as a division for your son's room, you can use it for a playground for your son, or to create a desk for your son. So again,
it'll literally last forever, won't it? Yeah. It'll just.
That is the main aspect about it, is that in reality, what we want is that people will use Corkbricks for life, even from generation to the other. We'll be more than happy to that, because in reality, and that's how you are really sustainable. Because if we stay in this consumerism trend that has been accelerated in the last 20 years, especially, it's crazy. Not even if we if we took Mars just to the side of Earth just to keep the trash, is not enough, because Mars is not big enough. So we need to stop wasting and generating waste, and we need to start thinking about solutions that we can use to replace objects that we use in our lives that are destroying our species. Basically, that's what is happening. We are destroying. We are doing a shoot in our feet.
So this what often happens with sustainable products? I've got a startup CBD company with a few friends, and we've recently kind of learned this one for ourselves. Is if you want to be really ethical and sustainable, sometimes that comes with a slightly higher price, you know. And our whole thing with that company is that we want to make sure that it's the absolute highest quality, lab tested, best stuff we can find. We want to make it affordable price, because lots of people that use CBD need it for, you know, physical ailments or conditions, and they often therefore are in the UK market are often reliant on, you know, support from the government or they're not employed at that moment in time. So money's an issue and they need the help, right? And they're looking for that alternative. So that's where we're trying to play a part. And what therefore we have to look at our margin and make sure we keep the prices low, and that's all we're doing so far. And what we learned was, as I say, it can carry an extra price tag, and that's why some of the other companies in England that serve the same sort of audience that we do, they have such a high price tag. You know, we thought that there's a more ethical way of just even pricing the product, you know, that would be more effective for the sorts of people and the reasons why that they're needing that product, instead of making it exclusive. So how does Corkbrick compare to the non-sustainable alternative on like a price point level? Do you know? Because like, I guess it's so varied. It's so varied, isn't it? Because there's not a one-for-one competitor. I guess you've got so many different alternatives that it replaces, haven't you? So it's hard to.
That is the first conclusion. If you wanna, you know, if you wanna compete, if you wanna compare, you cannot compare a car with a bicycle. A bicycle has only two wheels.
It becomes about preference then, doesn't it? Yeah, just about personal preference.
The problem is that in the market, as we speak today, there is no solution that offers you the dynamics of Corkbrick. So the possibility to change something in something else at any given time by yourself with no cost at all. So if you are a customer that you want to benefit from that unique characteristic, then the price is more than okay. Okay. If you just want a wall, but it will become a permanent wall, and you just need a quick solution. Obviously, you have other alternatives, not as quick as Corkbrick, because you can create a Corkbrick wall yourself alone in less than 30 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating. None of our configurations, the ones that you can see in our website, takes more than 60 minutes with 2 people. No one. None of the ones that are available. But again, the challenge when you create something is, first you have to have the product, then you have to have the buyer, and you need to sell whatever you are trying to sell to someone that has the money to buy it. So if you try to sell something for someone that has no money, even if they like your product intensively, but they don't have money, well, there are 8 billion people in the world, although obviously most, unfortunately, they are poor. But in our case, we just need to find, if all goes well, we just need to find 200,000 people in Europe in 10 years. And that's what we are looking for, just those 200,000 people that for them, the benefits of using Corkbrick will be worth the price. That's our challenge.
It's quite a specific number, 200,000 people. Can I ask where that decision came from, or where that goal came from? Why 200,000?
It's just 0.1% of the potential market, basically. Gotcha.
Cool.
So, but you know, when we design anything, I think there's one aspect, again, two aspects that most entrepreneurs forget when they start a company. You have 2 privileges. The first one, which is, in my point of view, really, really important because defines the quality of your life, is select the people around you. Because if you are creating your own company, you have that privilege. So if you pay attention to that privilege, even if some people are not the right match, if you choose well, you have no trouble in the process. You can change, but you are okay. So this for me is a huge privilege. Selecting people around me in all my life is a huge privilege. The second privilege is that when you are creating a company, in reality, you are creating a new game. Think about the game as a human interaction.
Mm.
You know, I don't like sharks. I don't like ambiguity, and I don't like judgment, because judgment is always biased. Even the most honest person is always biased. That's why I like so much games that, by definition, there is no ambiguity and there are no judgments. One very good example is chess. Chess game is a very simple, although complex game to play, but by definition, it's impossible to cheat. So when you create your company, create the organization model in the corporate governance model in such a way, in my case, that is like chess. So I don't have to worry about lawyers and this kind of things. If the problem, it's like the example that I mentioned to you in the other company that we had in the 2000s with the 3 indicators. Simplifying the problem, you will define very much the people that you will attract. And if your organization rules is like chess or checkers or many other games that are as simple as this, and they need no judgment, then the people that you are attracting is players, people that sometimes they win, sometimes they lose, but they enjoy the play. And that's what we need to do. And people often, not to say 100% of the time, often forget that when you start something, you have this privilege. Especially now that you have technologies like the blockchain, you can use blockchain to help in the, defining the transactions between people to make sure that there is no ambiguity, and to make sure that the sharks will not strive, because the sharks enjoy very much murky waters. They enjoy very much betrayal and things like that. And that sensation that it's the power of the strongest. It's not. In reality, not even nature, not even Darwin said that. It's not the power of the strongest. It's the power of collaboration and the species. And obviously, we are more than just a dinosaur. So hopefully, we can do more than that.
Yeah, you got to make sure there's no toxic behavior and toxic people in the team, haven't you? Definitely. Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be a bloodbath. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Listen, Miguel, thank you for your time today. I've enjoyed that conversation, man. A lot. You've taught me a few things. You reminded me of a few more things. I agree with you on the majority of things. Maybe not about on how people should maybe focus their time on a startup or the scale up or the big one. And I'm only against that for now. Maybe in 6 months' time or a year's time, I'll come back to you and say, all right, I get what you were saying. But we'll see where life takes us. But we always do this. Last thing you'd like to leave the audience with. Normally it's a top tip, number 1 lesson learned, something that you'd really, really like to share to a budding entrepreneur or someone who is scaling a business or someone who is going through a massive transformation and is just trying to soak up as much knowledge as possible about how to think differently. What would you say to someone on those paths?
Well, just believe in what you are doing, believe in yourself, and be consistent, because the opportunities to change are very frequent, and consistency, in my point of view, in everything in life, not only in business. And I think that business is just life. Yeah. So there is no thing of being very nice in life and very bad in business, or the opposite. If you are bad in one side, you are in the other. But I think consistency and believe in yourself. Obviously, you might find later on that you were not correct. Okay, and then you recognize and you change. It's part of life. But you have to be consistent and even some kind of stubborn, unless if people demonstrate to you that you were wrong. But in most cases, people don't demonstrate, they just say. And it's very common because most people are not entrepreneurs. And when they see the friends trying to be entrepreneurs, they always say, "Ah, okay," and create many problems.
Yes, they do.
And that is a good signal, because there is a space.
Yeah, you need that space too. You need that space to be creative, you know, and you need to own that. You need to own your direction and yourself, don't you? Miguel, thank you so much for your time. We'll make sure, send me anything that you need to go underneath the video. Send me that on LinkedIn. This will go out Wednesday. And so, yeah, make sure we've got all the links below. You guys will also be able to find my links down below the video too. See you next time.
Good.